Mr. Chebukati's actions. But Mr. Chebukati, whose mind appeared made up, did not entertain any discussion of the results, precipitating a walkout by a majority of the commissioners, who promptly denounced the results at a press conference. We know what happened next. A majority of the commissioners walked out and held a press conference where they denounced the results. Our view in Azimio is clear. The figures announced by Mr. Chebukati are null and void. I repeat, the figures announced by Mr. Chebukati are null and void and must be quashed by a court of law. In our view, there is neither a legally and validly declared winner nor a president-elect. Mr. Chebukati's announcement purporting to announce a winner is a nullity. He acted with gross impunity and in total disregard.
Well, that is the man Raila Odinga, who came second in Kenya's elections 2022. Of course, he lost to now the president-elect, that is William Ruto, and he garnered about 48.5 votes out of the Kenyan votes that were casted on the D-Day. And he's in total rejection of whatever results were announced by Wafula Chebukati, of course, the head of IEBC. He's fronting his reasons, and yes, there is quite also a section of Kenyans that believe he does present valid reasons. Well, the question is, what is the plan? What is he looking at doing next after all this? Good morning, Uganda, and thank you for being with us right here on the 17th day of August 2022. It's a Wednesday, midweek happenings, like I always call it. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and we are coming to you live from our very beautiful studios right here at Nile Avenue. And of course, I am with Felix NKUNDA, Mollen, Kenyena, and Robert Nyonyintono Kirabo. And we're here to make sure that we make your your Wednesday morning quite warm, as opposed to how cold it is, at least in the most parts of Kampala and all the suburbs surrounding. Well, just to hear from these two handsome gentlemen and the beautiful lady, I would really want to know what they think about the rejection of all these votes. And maybe just to start off with you, Mollen, good morning.
Yes, a very good morning to you, Philomena, and of course the team. I want to say good morning to our viewers out there. It is still a very, very complicated situation in Kenya, because if you look at what Raila is saying right now, he's rejecting the results, and clearly he's giving his reasons because he believes the chairman of IEBC acted alone by pronouncing Ruto as the winner, because we do know that 4 of the officials from IEBC did not actually sign on the final paper that was given out to say they are declaring the elections. So obviously he has grounds now to start on his process to go to court. And also has listened to one of the city lawyers in Nairobi backing him up, saying that actually Raila has grounds to go to court and petition these results, because he's also looking at the fact that it wasn't a majority agreement from the Electoral Commission, and obviously it should be. So at least he's making a point with that. We do know that he has 7 days from the day that the results were announced to actually go to court and present his case, after which it will only take 14 days for court to decide whether or not Kenya will be back into the elections. And now when that is done, that means they have 60 days to actually start on the process of getting votes in again. So we're looking forward to see what court has to decide. But other than that, Ruto is still actually celebrating. We did see a lot of masses across counties celebrating, and of course he's going on with his victory. He believes that Raila cannot make a point in court, and that his victory came from Kenyans, and that they did decide that he will be the next president. So it's still really a very complicated situation, but we'll wait to see what the lawyers of Raila Odinga will be presenting and how court will actually be coming out to give a decision on that.
Well, Felix, now we know that this was, I think, the 5th time this gentleman was contending for this position, and clearly things haven't really been going their way. I will tell you that some people believe maybe it's just not it. This one is not cutting it for you. Maybe you need to look at other things, okay? And they were saying, even if you say this was expected. This is a reaction that usually comes in from very major events like elections. It's very hard for people to concede that, you know what, you chose who you chose, and unfortunately I am not the one, so I'm okay. It's very hard to find occurrences like that. So does the same explanation make sense of what happened and the reaction that we got from Raila Odinga?
Well, of course, it's much more in law. There's something we call res ipsa loquitur.
I beg your pardon?
That the facts do speak for themselves.
No, I want the other word that you
res ipsa loquitur. that in this case, you look at facts being quite evident, that there's a lot of challenges that did happen at the moment of announcement or at the moments of the tallying, as they do suppose. For example, the first evident lacuna is what Mollen did say earlier, where we did see that some of the members of the commission do not accept that was given.
Yes.
However, they don't also come out to validate their misacceptancy, because they conclusively only state the word called opaque. Now, opaque in definitive sense, either legally, grammatically, may not conclusively give us a true picture of why they didn't believe that. But also keeping in mind that these particular 4 commissioners were most recently appointed by Uhuru Kenyatta to this commission.
Yes.
They have not been part of the commission for the last couple of years. They were most recently appointed, these particular 4. So, in as much as we talk about grounds for Ndugu Raila Odinga, you may also talk about a rebuttal from the team of the likes of Dr. William Ruto in terms of defense, and of course the commission as a matter of fact. But all arguments must not be based on emotions. We must be able to curtail out or cut thoroughly out the illegalities, if I may use that word. It's not about saying this one did do this. What does the law say when 2 or more commissioners do not append signature? 3 or 4, you know. So all those things will be visited when we see Ndugu Raila Odinga go to court. But on top of all these things happening, there's one thing that seemingly justice for an individual may cause an injustice for the entire electorate. I think for me that's the biggest fear. And the same springs from one of the rulings, the most classical ruling, or the locus classicus ruling in Uganda, where we did see the Honorable Justice Benjamin Odoki in one of the cases that are quite profound in jurisprudence, where he said that this particular election did have a number of riggings and irregularities, as a matter of fact.
Yes.
But we shouldn't stand far from our own history, even when giving judgment in law. Keeping in mind the same curtailment of our judgment can cause in events of such nature. So for that matter, sometimes courts are not bent to making even what would have been the right decision,
yes,
because they are always alive to the facts and history. So for me, when people are talking about he has grounds, he has this, he has this, he has environment, which is true, and I'm not disputing any of that.
When I was listening to Donald Chip Koril, he is saying that the fact that it has been stipulated in the acts of IEBC that it should be a majority decision. But if you look at this particular case, it's only 3 of the 7 that actually agreed to the vote. So 4 of them did not agree, and those are the majority. So that means the fact that the minority decided is already null and void, makes the decision null and void.
I would really love to hear from Robert, because I want to know, do you think that this man has enough ground? Could there be some ray of hope that maybe this time around the courts of law could actually listen to him and do something about this?
Well, over time I've learned in elections, people that determine who the leader is. Yes. One, you the voter, who you elect. But then from you, the voter, we have the Electoral Commission, who they will announce, people that can determine who the president will be. Then we have court. And to the extreme, sometimes we have the military. because we've seen where the voters can decide and the commission or the electoral body announces another person. We've also seen where the electoral commission can announce but court nullifies, and Kenya is a good case study here. They have ever had that, because when we look at Uhuru Kenyatta, even when they said the election wasn't that proper, still they went back to the ballot and the man won. So, and maybe the other is the supernatural bit of it, who is God.
Yes.
So, all being said, what Felix has said and what Mollen have said, the people made their decision. The Electoral Commission said this is the decision. Now we are waiting for court. The outcomes of court have learned not to just praise myself, I have the facts. It's all about who is smarter. You know, you can go to court with all your facts on table. Yes, this, that, and then technical and legal jargons like Brother Felix has been speaking here, leave you out of court not as the winner. So the court has a big mandate in how they find it. And now where we speak, it seems it's going in the hands of the law. So there you cannot just say, because I have these facts, Raila Odinga, four-time loser, he may not be so sure that because you talk of majority, the situation can, you know, history can repeat itself. It's not guaranteed that because you assume.
Yeah.
Because there are so many. Mollen has talked about, I was also listening to one of the lawyers in Nairobi, and when Mollen talks about consensus, the guy had his interpretation where he said, it is not majority. It is the commission, exactly. and the chairperson of the commission is Wafula.
Yes.
So if the chairperson announced that their law is not about, this is not like at the Supreme Court where I have 7 verses. He said, no, our laws speak differently. Then I'm like, oh, my brother.
And actually, what happens, Robert, just sort of throw more light, the legalese of this attribution is simple. That when they decline to ascend to a particular understanding of the commission, the reasons shall be also withered by court. Again, even when you go to litigation,
yes.
The reasons they will give,
yes.
it will be court to validate. It is not. So as of now, the fact and the matter of fact that is given and known,
yes.
that we have a president in Kenya, elect. That's a matter of fact. So the rest is going to be what we call a befalleth of bequeath.
Well, I must say that things may not really be looking so rosy, especially when it comes to Raila's camp and corner, but we are yet to see what will come out of court. And again, what we know is that for now, there is a president-elect who was fully and officially declared by Wafula Chebukati. A lot is happening over there in Kenya, but also a lot is happening in Kenya. We're seeing very many questions arising due to salary disparities when it comes to the Uganda Airlines administration. We're seeing quite a lot of money being lost by Uganda, all in the name of giving tax exemptions to investors. And we're seeing also districts doing the most, especially when it comes to taking top 3 positions. I'm talking about Massacre, Kamuli, and Kampala when it comes to vandalizing electricity and everything that has to do with it. Well, many more stories right here on the Ugandan soils. Maybe it's time for us to eschew into some of them before we cross over to the international scene.
And we will begin with His Excellency Yoweri Kaguta Museveni congratulating, that is William Ruto, upon his victory. President Yoweri Museveni has congratulated Kenya's President-elect William Samoei Ruto upon being elected as Kenya's 5th president. In a release signed by the President, President Museveni, on behalf of all Ugandans and on his own behalf, congratulated Ruto upon the election. This was a follow-up of an earlier call to President-elect William Ruto upon his victory. He reassured Ruto of Uganda's commitment to continue partnering with Kenya in advancing regional and continental agenda through the East African Community, Africa Union, and other platforms. He pledged that their cooperation will score tremendous achievements and looking forward in working closely with President Ruto.
Well, of course, also still in local stories now, after the position of the Chief Executive Office of the Uganda Airlines fell vacant, a search for the new CEO was initiated and 40 people tendered in their respective qualifications. Now, Jennifer Bamuturachi, who held the position on an interim basis had intentions of applying for the CEO of the national carrier titled Little Did She Know that luck would befall her. Now, Jennifer and some officials from Uganda Airlines appeared before the Parliamentary Committee on Commissions, Statutory Authorities and State Enterprise to clear the air on the recruitment of the CEO of the national carrier. The officials revealed how the process was interfered by the presidential directive, which opted that Jennifer Bamturaki should grab this position. Now, the chairperson also of the commission questioned the salary disparities of the Uganda airline following an Auditor General's report which asserts that the airline has no approved salary staff structure, which makes it to incur excess expenditures amounting to 4 billion shillings.
And still now on the political scene of Uganda, top government and NRM officials, including the Vice President Jessica Alupo, NRM's first National Vice Chairperson Alhaji Moses Chigongo, and the Prime Minister Robin Anabanja thronged Busongora South constituency in Kasese district to drum support for NRM candidate in the by-election Gideon Mujungu. The officials assured the people of Busongora South of better service delivery once they elect the ruling National Resistance Movement candidate in Thursday's by-election. Yesterday marked the last day for campaigns in Busongora South by-election that fell vacant after court nullified the election on grounds of malpractices.
Now, Uganda Police has enrolled 40 senior officers to attend the Master's Command Directive course to match the modern dynamic policing demands. The Police Director of Human Resource Development, Godfrey Gorowa, challenged police officers to develop new policing policies that address the dynamic crime environment. Now, enrolled officers range from the rank of Assistant Superintendent of Police, Superintendent of Police, Senior Superintendent of Police, and Assistant Commissioners of Police. These are, of course, on new methods of research, modern police and policing, designing, management, just to mention but a few.
And in the international news, looking at the World Health Organization, they've invited the public to find a new name for Monkey Pox, calling for help in coming up with a less stigmatizing designation for the fast-spreading disease amid concerns about the name. Experts warn the name can be stigmatizing to the primates it was named after, but who play little role in its spread, and to the African continent that the animals are often associated with. Recently in Brazil, for instance, there have been reported cases of people attacking monkeys over disease fears. Human monkeypox was given its name before current best practices in naming diseases. World Health Organization spokeswoman Fadela Kayeb told reporters in Geneva yesterday, "We want really to find a name that is not stigmatizing," she added, saying the consultation is now open to everyone through a dedicated website. Now moving on, the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres and Turkish President Tayyip Erdogan will meet Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky in Ukraine on Thursday, according to the United Nations spokesman. At the invitation of President Volodymyr Zelensky, the Secretary General will be in Lviv on Thursday to attend a trilateral meeting with President Tayyip of Turkey and the Ukrainian leader. Guterres spokesman Stefan said on Tuesday. Dujarric said the trio will visit on Friday the Black Sea port of Odessa, where grain exports have resumed under a UN brokered deal. On July 22nd, Russia and Ukraine signed a landmark deal with the UN and Turkey on resuming grain shipments in an attempt to ease a global food crisis in which millions face hunger. Russian Defense Minister Sergei Shoigu and Ukrainian Infrastructure Minister Alexander Kubrakov each signed separate but identical agreements with UN and Turkish officials on reopening blocked Black Sea delivery routes. Dujarric said Guterres would meet Zelensky in Lviv in western Ukraine and discuss the situation at the Zaporizhia nuclear power plant and also discuss the need for a political solution to the conflict.
And back in Africa, South Africans rally to mark the Marikana Massacre 10th anniversary. Now, thousands of people gathered in South African town of Marikana to mark a decade since dozens of striking workers were killed in the worst act of police violence since the end of apartheid. On August 16, 2012, 34 people were killed and 78 injured when the police opened fire on platinum mine workers who had gathered on a hill near the mine to press demands for better wages and housing. 10 years of betrayal, said the T-shirts worn by many at the commemoration on Tuesday, expressing bitterness that those killed have not received justice and the promises of better pay and conditions for miners have not been fulfilled. Clustered on a small hilltop around 10 kilometers northwest of Johannesburg, where the shootings took place, the miners sang mournful songs and chants. Many at the event wore green and black, the colors of the Association of Mine Workers and Construction Union that led the strike. Opposition officials also attended the event. We are still waiting to know the person who sent the police to kill these thousands, a representative for the widows of those killed who did not give her name told the crowd from stage. The words "No justice, no arrest" appearing on a banner behind her. And in the world and climate news, Biden signs $740 billion climate, health, tax, inflation reduction act. President Joe Biden signed Democrats' landmark climate change and healthcare bill into law on Tuesday, delivering what he has called the final piece of his pared-down domestic agenda, as he claims to boost his party's standing with voters less than 3 months before the midterm elections. The legislation includes the most substantial federal investment in the history to fight climate change, some $375 billion over the decade, and would cap the prescription drug costs at $2,000 out of the pocket annually for Medicare recipients. It also would help an estimated 13 million Americans to pay for healthcare insurance by extending subsidies provided during the coronavirus pandemic. This measure is paid by the new taxes on large companies and stepped up IRS enforcement of wealthy individuals and entities, with additional funds going to reduce the federal deficit. And in a triumphant signing event, which was at White House, Biden pointed that the law as proof that democracy, no matter how long or messy the process, can still deliver for voters in America, as he road-tested a line he will likely repeat later this fall ahead of the midterms. The American people won and special interests lost.
Well, seeing as more conversations are all about OPEC results, once in a while I hear you talking about OPEC bottles, Robert, when you're talking about Hallelujah. I don't know, are we still talking about the OPEC bottles this morning?
Oh, definitely. And my sister Mollen, very smartly dressed, looking so elegant. I'll give her the opportunity to talk more about that bottle.
Well, I will tell you one thing about this bottle. It really does boost your immune system. And of course, it says here it's ready for, to drink. So meaning that anytime you get this bottle from the supermarket or anywhere, you can just take the drink. And guess what? It will be giving you all the nutrients that right now it's very hard for you to go into your gardens and get some of these herbs that our great-grandparents used to have. But Hallelujah has had the chance to actually put this together for you, and you can just buy it and make sure that you're healthy all the time, just like me and Robert.
And Felix will hold the green and also give you more of what the green does in case you take it. Well, Felix.
Well, of course, for some of you who do love to enjoy ginger tea, do not forget to get yourself a copy of this particular drink, and you do have a smooth day. Definitely for those who have colds and whatever that comes with throat irritations.
And I have the banana Hallelujah drink. Now, this has the banana juice for those that like omubisi and also omorondo. So what these do, a mixture of both. Definitely you will enjoy that taste. Just 1,500. You can get any of the colors. You can have the brown, you can have the green, you can also have these, and I guarantee you they'll boost your immune system.
Well, and I'm told that this seems to be one of the new favorites of quite a number of people. But I mean, they're all doing quite a great and tremendous job. Speaking of tremendous, we know that women over time have come through doing tremendous jobs when it comes to giving you great music. And today is Women Crush Wednesday, and definitely that you know the drill. We'll be giving you an inspirational song to make sure that you are inspired to get through the rest of the week, seeing as we are already done with the first half. And it comes in from quite another great woman musician. When we get back, we'll be having quite a lot still to unpack for you right here on Good Morning Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Boost your immune system, and of course it says here it's ready for, to drink, so meaning that anytime you get this bottle from the supermarket or anywhere, you can just take the drink, and guess what, it will be giving you all the nutrients that right now it's very hard for you to go into your gardens and get some of these herbs that our great-grandparents used to have. But Hallelujah has had the chance to actually put this together for you, and you can just buy it and make sure that you're healthy all the time, just like me and Robert.
And Felix will hold the green and also give you more of what the green does in case you take it. Well, Felix.
Well, of course, for some of you who do love to enjoy ginger tea, do not forget to get yourself a copy of this particular drink, and you do have a smooth day. Definitely for those who have colds and food saver that comes with throat irritations.
And I have the banana Hallelujah drink. Now this has the banana juice for those that like omubisi and also omorondo. So what these do, a mixture of both, definitely you will enjoy that taste. At just 1,500, you can get any of the colors. You can have the brown, you can have the green, you can also have these, and I guarantee you they'll boost your immune system.
Well, and I'm told that this seems to be one of the new favorites of quite a number of people. But I mean, they're all doing quite a great and tremendous job. Speaking of tremendous, we know that women over time have come through doing tremendous jobs when it comes to giving you great music. And today is Women Crush Wednesday, and definitely that you know the drill. We'll be giving you an inspirational song to make sure that you are inspired to get through the rest of the week, seeing as we are already done with the first half. And it comes in from quite another great woman musician. When we get back, we'll be having quite a lot still to unpack for you right here on Good Morning Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.
Boost your immune system, and of course it says here it's ready for, to drink, so meaning that anytime you get this bottle from the supermarket or anywhere, you can just take the drink, and guess what, it will be giving you all the nutrients that right now it's very hard for you to go into your gardens and get some of these herbs that our great-grandparents used to have. But Hallelujah has had the chance to actually put this together for you, and you can just buy it and make sure that you're healthy all the time, just like me and Robert.
And Felix will hold the green and also give you more of what the green does in case you take it. Well, Felix.
Well, of course, for some of you who do love to enjoy ginger tea, do not forget to get yourself a copy of this particular drink, and you do have a smooth day. Definitely for those who have colds and food saver that comes with throat irritations.
And I have the banana Hallelujah drink. Now this has the banana juice for those that like omubisi and also omorondo. So what these do, a mixture of both, definitely you will enjoy that taste. At just 1,500, you can get any of the colors. You can have the brown, you can have the green, you can also have these, and I guarantee you they'll boost your immune system.
Well, and I'm told that this seems to be one of the new favorites of quite a number of people. But I mean, they're all doing quite a great and tremendous job. Speaking of tremendous, we know that women over time have come through doing tremendous jobs when it comes to giving you great music. And today is Women Crush Wednesday, and definitely that you know the drill. We'll be giving you an inspirational song to make sure that you are inspired to get through the rest of the week, seeing as we are already done with the first half. And it comes in from quite another great woman musician. When we get back, we'll be having quite a lot still to unpack for you right here in Good Morning Uganda.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala.
Boost your immune system, and of course it says here it's ready for, to drink, so meaning that anytime you get this bottle from the supermarket or anywhere, you can just take the drink, and guess what, it will be giving you all the nutrients that right now it's very hard for you to go into your gardens and get some of these herbs that our great grandparents used to have. But Hallelujah has had the chance to actually put this together for you, and you can just buy it and make sure that you're healthy all the time. Just like me and Robert.
And Felix will hold the green and also give you more of what the green does in case you take it. Well, Felix.
Well, of course, for some of you who do love to enjoy ginger tea, do not forget to get yourself a copy of this particular drink, and you do have a smooth day. Definitely for those who have colds and food saver that comes with throat irritations.
And I have the banana hallelujah drink. Now this has the banana juice for those that like omubisi and also omorondo. So these do a mixture of both.
Telenovela, the movies. There is something for everybody. Go TV, this is where our great stories live.
Get the best entertainment for any budget. With GoTV, you will have great entertainment for as little as 13,000 Uganda shillings per month. GoTV, great stories. Zidiwano, GoTV Uganda. Love it.
Enjoy more GBs for the same price on Airtel. Kirabo using to Gabane. We have increased GBs across all your favorite packs. Now, 4 GB is at 10,000 shillings and 10.5 GB at 22,500 shillings, all valid for a week. For the heavy data users, enjoy 24 GB at 50,000 shillings and 50 GB at 100,000 shillings, all valid for a month. Dial *175 hash or use the My Airtel app to buy these and more affordable weekly and monthly data bundles on Airtel, the smartphone network.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
of August 2022. It's a Wednesday. Good morning once again, and here we are for the second hour of the show. My name is Philomena Mastiko, and I am in the wise company of these two gentlemen who seem to have a lot to talk about, Felix NKUNDA and Robert Kirabo Nyonyintono. Well, every other time, you know that we get to talk about something that is quite making rounds when it comes to the news sphere, but also it could be anything, cuts across socially, it could be economically, it could be financially, name it all. But this morning, our conversation is going to be gravitating around the tax incentives and exemptions that we are having right here in our economy. As we know right now, our economy is actually not performing well. Very many other economies are actually not doing well. Could be advanced economies, could be mediocre economies, it could be even economies from all these third world countries. Well, according to a report that was released by Siatini, they've come out to warn that if Uganda as a country continues to give all these tax exemptions and And, you know, to all these investors, we stand to lose quite a lot more money than we already did. According to a report that was released last year showing Uganda's expenditure, it showed that we as a country or as an economy will lose about 5 trillion Ugandan shillings every year in all these tax exemptions and tax incentives. And they say if we continue with that trend, definitely we are headed for hell. And this is not exactly what we would want to. And according to the same report, the 5 trillion was actually, it was indicating that this was translating into about 30% of the total revenue collection collected back in financial year 2019-2020. But also, the sectoral allocation also was accounting for about 3.64%, that is of the GDP, higher than other sections. Now, this does not really look nice. We are trying so much to have money maintaining the economy, but we are also losing quite a lot of money when it comes to revenue collection. Now, before we get into all that, maybe to just start off with you, Robert, you could clearly explain to us what a tax exemption is, an incentive, what are they, and why are they even relevant in an economy?
Well, to begin with, we must know that countries struggle for investors. All countries yearn to have people come in either domestically, because these tax incentives are given to both foreign and domestic. The only difference is that for domestic investors, they get them at a lower sum of money. So countries are struggling to get these investors. So you must put in place what attracts them to invest in your country. When you see us go to the Dubai Expo, when you see our president move around the world and saying, come and invest in Uganda, Rwanda's president is doing the same. Tanzania is doing the same. Other countries, their presidents may not, but they have international brokers who are going and calling them, come and invest home. Because what you benefit when a person invests in your country, first you reduce on your imports, because certain things are now manufactured that maybe you are importing. Second, you increase on your exports. Now you're selling out of the country. Third, you fight unemployment, because these investors are going to give jobs and give jobs to your people. So there is more money in the economy. Now what governments do is they put these incentives to attract investors. That a person knows, if I'm going in Uganda and investing about $50 million US, then I have maybe about 10 years not paying a particular tax. Then electricity is brought to my site. We have an industrial park, roads are already put in place. Everything is in place. So that when you compare where is the best area, if I'm having Rwanda, Uganda, I have Tanzania, maybe within the East African community. And this investor has this amount of money. So they will look away from purchasing or other factors. They will look at what incentives does Uganda give. So if Uganda offers better incentives, for example, if you're going to qualify for a 10-year free tax holiday, definitely one would say, if I'm going to invest in Uganda, then I'm going to spend this period of time, I'm not paying tax. Or if they tell you when you come to Uganda, you're getting free land. If Rwanda, you have to buy the land, and Uganda, you're getting the land free, then any investor would say, looking at this A, B, C, and D incentives offered, let me go and invest in Uganda. And sometimes incentives are given in a particular sector that government may say, now we want to look at agro-based promotion industries. So investors, because our backbone is agriculture, we have the parish development model, we are increasing production, but we need value addition. So government sits in its wisdom and says, any investor coming in this particular direction, we should give them these incentives to attract them more. So those are the reasons why governments all over the world give these incentives.
Now, speaking of the incentives, Dickens Katashumba, who is the MP for Shema constituency and formerly used to work with the Uganda Revenue Authority, says that it's really quite sad that most of these incentives and exemptions are given to foreign investors, okay? And they believe that the process for them is quite easier compared to the local investors. Just in a nick of a time, an investor will walk in the country, you know, probably meet the president or maybe talk to a few people here and there, and just like that, he's given probably land, or, you know, he's exempted from certain taxes and all these, you know, exemptions. Now, for a local business person or even a local investor, the process is quite hard. And he goes on to say his argument is that it's going to be very hard to balance it out between the foreign investors and the local investors. Now, Felix, looking at all this, could we actually say that we don't have a refined process on how we grant all these incentives to the so-called investors?
I just want to pick it up from a departing point from my brother Robert, where he did make mention about incentives and how they steer development and industrialization, if I did get him right. In the true appreciation of a country like Uganda, you look at incentives, you see, and incentives being the word grammatically, it's what we transfer into even the taxation appreciation. It is simply, like, would be enticements. Like, how do you entice people to, you give them those holidays, which in Uganda have since then become political, coming to what you say, you asked. And because of the political nature of incentives, now you're using a political approach for a policy would-be approach. Now, taxation is a matter of policy in this country because it's regulated first and foremost. Secondly, it has its given tariffs depending on where you fall, the tiers you fall in. Everything is already written out. Now, when you bring a political approach to an already legislated, given policy, strategized, planned process, you are the one defeating the purpose. For example, when you bring an investor, would-be investor, and you tell them that you are going to give you a tax holiday for probably 5 or 10 years. A tax holiday means that you have been, you will not be assessed to pay on what you earn. Can you imagine?
So whatever you earn, the entire percentage you
you're
earn
not
is
paying any revenue on, because what is taxation? If you want to go look at it, it's basically the money deductible on revenue. So it means we are telling this person, you come and make money. For us as a country, we don't care. You just make. Remember, you're talking about these incentives, you're talking about these exemptions, you're talking about these holidays in a governance system without repatriation titrations. You understand?
Yes.
That we are absent of a law that limits expatriation of profits.
Anybody can come, do what they're doing, and carry their money and go.
Now, in regimes, my brother is talking about that elsewhere in the world, the only catchment you have as an institution is that you must be able to limit or put in law. And I won't take you, but go to Nairobi here, Kenya. They give these incentives, but there are conditions. One, in terms of employment. How many CEOs are here for those so-called companies that are, you have people sweeping, and you call that job creation?
Maybe Philo,
no, just a moment.
Yes.
Just a moment.
I wanted, I don't want us to make it look like there isn't a regulation or there aren't conditions that someone just wakes up and says, yes, you're an investor, you've come, we've given you land, we've given you tax. When you go to the Uganda Investment Authority, and by law, there are clear terms of how one qualifies for these incentives. And among them is acquisition of an investment license and certificate from Uganda Investment Authority, meeting a minimum capital requirement for $50,000 million. That is for local investors. That is for then meeting a minimum capital requirement for about $250 million for a foreign investor. Investing in value addition projects using at least 70% of the local raw materials.
Yes.
For you to get this, that they must assess that 70% of what you're going to use is going to be local material. Then employing 70% of Ugandans, all East Africans, who in total consume 70% of the wage bill.
Now yes.
So there are a number.
The question is yes. The question is that they are there. We have seen them. The Uganda Investment Authority has them written down.
And what
but what's the efficacy? What's the efficacy?
You see, these things for the people like Uncle Bobia, they are good for them to read for people and to entice their simple muscles to be happy that we have a law. As I always say, to massage your ego. You see, we have the laws. If I ask you how many people have gotten through this process, how can you even give me a list of over 100 people? The Honorable Kate Shumbwa has for long been employed in the Uganda Revenue Authority, and he is an authority, by the way, talking about this in the preamble that Philomena gave you. He himself didn't quote this gambadoism you're telling us here. He came out telling the truth of the matter, that as long as tax holidays, incentives are politicized, you're hitting the policy. Anywhere here, you tell me where they talk about profit repatriation as being a limitation, because that's the only catchment I've said. And between you and me, Robert, and I allude to the fact that you're a senior journalist. You tell me how many foreign companies that came through these incentives that have their as CEO, as managing director.
They met the standards 100%.
Go to Mukono here. Where you have the industrial parks of most of the investors.
That stretch between Mukono and
you have
Jinja,
people there
yes.
picking, picking. Those girls are paid 2,000 a day, 3,000 a day, 4,000 a day. Do you find them moving along Jinja Road? Not that we don't value that kind of employment. It's a good way to start. But vis-a-vis the topic we are looking at today, if we lodge into a study of what we are losing vis-a-vis what we ought to get out of investment, do we have meaningful investment? Where you bring investors in this country, give them all these beautiful incentives, tax holidays, land. Today they give land to... It's hilarious. Where you have no minimum wage, it defeats the purpose. You bring someone and give them all these holidays, the incentives, and tell them, no, for us in Uganda, you don't employ anyone a day below at least $10. Those are what we call, you see, we are not against the incentives, the holidays, whatever they can give politically. But let us also talk about the benefit, one, of the country entirely, because we are, it's just like, it should be a win-win. We are giving you this, but we are getting this. But we must also have a standard of what we are getting. We are going to lose revenue, worth the billions and billions of money, but for what? Not for our children to be paid 2,000 shillings a day. Doesn't make sense. Not for people to be, you've heard stories of some of the people, in the investors here, sexual harassment, they are the ones, you see these things every day. What are we trading these incentives for? I think for me that should be our great discussion. Whether they are political, that is their issue, whether or not. But the reason why today it's an issue is simply because we are not getting what we should get as what we are trading. You give incentives, you give holidays. The only thing you can get is talk about investors who are building in swamps.
Well, yes, okay. Please.
Well, you know, when you're looking at issues of investment, we must look at it in a broader spectrum of things. I agree with Felix that we could evaluate that we are losing about 5 trillion annually. But if you look at our budget, even if you look at the budget of 2020-2023, where you're looking at about getting about 25 trillion domestically earned.
Yes.
Remember, our informal sector, much as they seem to be doing much, many of these are not taxable. If you look at the first 5 top companies that are paying tax in Uganda, these are all not local companies. These are companies of investors. So just having a round figure that 5 trillion annually is what we are losing. Let's go back to how much are these investors bringing in. Then when we begin looking at what, okay, they are taking money out, let's look at when an investor comes in this country, away from the little employment, because there is no employment, though we hope they can have much more than they are taking home. But for now, these people are coming and addressing this challenge as well. Two, when these people come here, they are staying, they are spending here as well, much as they are giving employment to our people. Second, in the long run, what is happening? So investment is not that you get money today, then you go and get your calculator and you look at the profits. That's why government gives them these long-term incentives to settle in. You must assume that a factory has started today and they're making money.
Okay.
Yet they are going to break through after 5 years or 9 years.
But now that you talk about that, we're looking, because most of these are foreign investors. Why is there such an imbalance between the foreign investors and the local investors? And matter of fact, I will tell you, Robert, that some of these, and according to an official from Kasita, this is the Kampala City Traders Association, Thaddeus Musoke, who is the chairman. He was saying that, listen, our local producers here, first of all, they don't have the information. And when they do have the information, the requirements for them are quite very, very hard and complicated. And yet, when you look at some of these investors, the foreign investors that come in, first of all, you're coming in shortly, you will get all that you need. And when they get all these tax exemptions, do you know that they will leave the country? Well, and that there is no accountability of what they did. They were given the land, they were given the tax holidays, but there is nothing to account for, you know, their result. There is nothing.
I first must accept that, yes, we've had those challenges where a local investor, much as they meet the requirements, one, they don't have information like you said. Two, there's so much doubt that even when they give them, that even when they go to some of these offices. Three, we also have elements of corruption, you know, because a local investor may not be equally as an international investor who has been poached or found by His Excellency. For example, he goes to Dubai Expo, meets an investor like Felix and says, come home and invest. So when that person is coming, it is swift, it is easier, even when he moves into an office. Like a person, maybe a minister, goes to benchmark and Honorable Frank Tumweba is in agricultural sector and says, William Ruto, we have a place here, you know, come and invest here. So these usual international investors come with a proper line set for them. Many of these, we have the Uganda Investment Authority, we have the Investment Bureau that go and hunt for them.
Yes.
So usually they come with a demarcated process compared to an ordinary investor who may feel or wake up and say, I want to start this project, but I think I have this amount of money and I qualify. Then you begin going through queues. That is where you see the difference, that for some of these, it is very easier because of how we know you have money. We need ICT in this country. So we tell you, come and invest. You're doing telecommunication company in Kenya. Come to Uganda. Come. So who is bringing you? Your path is well streamlined compared to a local investor.
Let me just tell you something. In fact, what Robert is saying is blasphemy. Honestly, and no, it's not his fault. He's just speaking the truth. He's just saying the truth of the lost analogy of approach in terms of investment in a country like Uganda. How can you say that incentives will be dealt with on personal? And that's not his fault, again, I want to say. He's simply saying what's actually the truth. And I can rejoinder to the same effect. That if you don't know Honorable Massiko,
so yes,
who's maybe who's a minister for whatever, there are very many also. So you will not get assistance.
I didn't say you will not get.
It's me who's saying it. It's not you. No. Now that's
because that's
my
a wrong
statement.
assumption.
I know that for a fact. I'm telling you. I know
because
that
there are those that have gotten without knowing this one. That's a wrong assumption.
Yeah, there is a percentage that has probably gotten
it. And I can tell you off camera a number of them because most of them are my cards. I'm telling you now my storyline. Not if you don't, because these incentives most recent today, you must see the president. In fact, one of my clients was openly told that those are political incentives.
Yes.
And he had all the applications, but they came out and tell you those are political. Find someone to take you to ABCD. Imagine such a process. Now, but remember, you are talking about a national consolidated resource fund. You may lose about 5. That's about how much, what percentage of contribution to a Ugandan budget. But remember, we are losing this money, but every day we are borrowing money in the same tune. Now, there's an imbalance in the economics of our country, and clearly we must awaken ourselves to the reality. If processes are in place, as Kirabo read some of these things of the Uganda Investment Authority.
Uganda Investment Authority.
If some of these things are in place, I think we must be able to empower the authority to do the needful, because it has the machinery to assess, to process, and to evaluate who deserves and who doesn't deserve. The biggest question, and I want to say this again that Philo did say, why not the local people?
Yes.
The spokesperson of Kasita was here last time. He told you that how a group of investors here wanted to open up a big textile company. And what happened? Many stories. I know of a company which wanted which was in production of mattresses and those kind of products. It's told. And most recent, because of such approach, I want to also vividly put it on record that we have created a stiff, unnecessary competition between Ugandan investors and your so-called foreign investors. Now, which is causing a throw-out of Ugandan investors in business. Do you know how many people have been kicked out of business because of the coming of your so-called foreign investors? Yet, with probably better capacity Ugandans, and more real for that matter, who pay more taxes, by the way. But because of that kind of mismanagement of issues of investment, we have kicked many Ugandans out of business.
Yes.
Now, are we helping?
And I would love also to hear what you have to say, the both of you, on this. The Parliament has partially been blamed for this because why? They do give some of these, they pass some of these exemption laws, and apparently they are expected to be creating quite a very clear procedure on how to give out these exemptions. But also when you look at it from Parliament's side, their argument is that some of these deals, okay, that are made with the so-called investors are made by government. They will go and probably go sign all these MOUs before they even come to, you know, consult from Parliament, and it makes it hard for Parliament to actually intervene all these already signed MOUs. I really want to hear what you have to say about this, the both of you, but starting off with you, Robert.
I 100% agree with members of Parliament because really we've seen a number of these investors come to the floor of Parliament. I was reading through the Nakawana land saga, where you have a quack investor, where they can investigate and the company does not exist. The Vince Coffey looked at some of these agreements, even when we were purchasing some of our airlines, if you remember very well, where they were like, if we cancel because we have a bad deal, then we have to pay so much. So by and large, I must say, incentives are good. Tax holidays are good. Uganda is on the right track of attracting investors. But the challenge now remains on enforcement of the law and doing things systematically as they should be done. I agree with Felix to a certain extent that political interference on matters of policy should be stopped at a certain level, because this is where I have a problem, where you find that some people may get these tax holidays, yet they're undeserving of them, and others that deserve may not get them. But that does not remove the fact that when government came up with these tax holidays, the intention, the reasons, if well handled, were good. And finally, when we are discussing matters of investment, we should not discuss them like buy and sell. Investment takes time. Investment, you invest in something, and we must remember, Uganda, you're giving this to investors. What are they coming with? Someone is going to institute a plant of about 4 billion. You're giving him incentives worth of maybe $1 billion shillings. He's going to create employment. So when you balance, who is investing more and who is getting more?
Well, there are certain investments that have been given quite enough time, but they haven't yet yielded results. But moving on, Felix, do you think the parliamentarians are dying for sins they did not commit?
First and foremost, the parliament's demeanor continuously has been related to that is of sounding drums yet not dancers. You know, so even when people have gone to parliament, so what? You know, they have chosen to deliberate bills that are relevant to their political whims rather than those that are relevant to the development of the country, and I can base that on evidence that is being put on Hansard's. So when they come out to cry such, it's as simple. Let them make law about limitation of expatriation. Let them have discussions into implementation of some of these policies.
So they're not focusing on the major policies.
I think they are crying babies.
They're doing post-mortem most of the time.
That's the thing. They are crying babies.
By the time these things go to the wrong direction, then Osase or Parliament intervenes. They will tell you, we already signed a memorandum of understanding, and there's nothing much you can do. The company was already given that and this. So
I think for me the problem is bigger than just Parliament's demeanor. I think the problem is the great fusion, which is, by the way, continuous and unprecedented in a country like Uganda, of politics. Politics in this country is in charge of everything. Totally. You find politics in people's beds, people's gardens, people's dining. So it's a common thing, if you understand. So politics is, and that's the worst thing we are suffering with, because today, if you want your someone arrested to be released, you will go to a politician. If you want to, someone is looking at you badly, you will go to a politician. So the fusion of politics in every state government institution, you understand?
Yes.
That you can imagine if Kirabo here has a problem and is going to court, we may have to go to a politician. Now, yet there are processes that should be used. Legal process that when someone to get bail, you understand? So for me, the problem is not Parliament. It is simply the humongous fusion of politics in institutional processes. And that is a planned move for me.
Well, Uganda is losing about 5 trillion when it comes to the tax exemptions and incentives that it's giving to foreigners, most especially the foreign investors. Now, this money could have been diverted to go and cover up other sectors. The question, though, still remains, how are we going to fill that gap? How are we going to be able to regain that money? Well, we are yet to find that out. We're going in for the dailies to see the big stories.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Football packages, great entertainment, sports, local content, telenovela, the movies. There is something for everybody. Everybody, Go TV. This is where great stories live.
Get the best entertainment for any budget. With GoTV, you will have great entertainment for as little as 13,000 Ugandan shillings per month. GoTV, great stories, Zidiwano. GoTV Uganda, love it.
Enjoy more GBs for the same price on Airtel. Kirabo using Tugabane. We have increased GBs across all your favorite packs. Now, 4 GB is at 10,000 shillings and 10.5 GB at 22,500 shillings, all valid for a week. For the heavy data users, enjoy 24 GB at 50,000 shillings and 50 GB at 100,000 shillings, all valid for a month. Dial *175# or use the My Airtel app to buy these and more affordable weekly and monthly data bundles on Airtel, the smartphone network.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Alleluia Jingati drink and Alleluia Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Alleluia Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Alleluia from all shops around.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Well, in the press review, we start off with the Daily Monitor, and the big story over there is cargo trucks diverted over Kisumu protests. Now we're looking at a post-election chaos where the cargo trucks destined to Kenya via the Busia border are being diverted through Mumias Road in Kakamega County to Bungoma and Eldoret after violent protests broke out in Kisumu County following the announcement of Kenya's presidential results on Monday. And queries as MPs discuss Uganda Airlines salaries, quite a lot of disgruntled opinions that were expressed. Cabinet clears plan to buy electricity from Kenya, and members of parliament task education to regulate fees. Now, scientists want new booster TB jab for adults. And moving on to the second page of the Daily Monitor, NMGU to launch a survey on mid-sized companies today. And today in history, Cardinal Nsubuga decries unlawful detentions in Uganda. Still in history, the year was 1998 when Clinton testified before the grand jury. Well, we also do have a number of stories happening over there in the New Vision.
Well, in the New Vision, starting off with funding, 10 new cities get over shillings 314 billion. That is a detailed story on page 6. And in Education, the Ministry explains increase in school fees. That is also on page 12. Now, the big headline right there, Museveni writes to William Ruto, Raila Odinga rejects results. For IEBC bosses explain their position. That is also detailed on page 2, 3, 4, and 5 of the New Vision. They also give you a picture right there of border census, as border riders are right there in the picture reading the registration forms as they wait to register. That was in Rubaga division, but more on that story as well in the New Vision. Electricity, Uganda to buy power from Kenya. That is also on page 10 of the New Vision. Crossing over to the second page, Odinga rejects Ruto's win, IEBC rebels, give reasons. Talking about the 4 that rejected the results as well. They give you pictures of Raila Odinga with his mate, the running mate, Massacre, right there. Detailed story in the New Vision for this morning. I will look into the sports section. What do we have in the Daily Monitor?
She corporates in Ali Simba Queens test now. The decisive day is here, and Ugandan champions She Corporate and Tanzanian outfit Simba Queens opened their campaign to qualify for the Women's Champions League by whitewashing their opponents, Yei Joint Stars and Guard Republican. This was with 6-0 respectively. And Kaiwa returned to make light heavyweight tougher. And looking at also United ready to offload Ronaldo, full strength is the main story here, where we have Man United who could let Cristiano Ronaldo leave Old Trafford amid concerns about the striker's mood is affecting morale in the camp. I must say that Man U people are not really doing well since this season is not theirs, but we need to give them quite some benefit of doubt and hope and pray for them.
They shouldn't take it personal. I think Arsenal has been there as well, so we can only imagine. But keep heart, Man U. But also crossing over into the New Vision Sports for this morning, Kirabo is left out. They're talking about the leading swimmer, Kirabo Namtevi's mother, Hadija Namanda, who has protested her daughter's exclusion from the FINA World Junior Swimming Championship scheduled for August 30th September. Well, detailed story in the New Vision for this morning. They also give you pictures right there. Kirabo is right there, and Kirabo's mom actually talking about this exclusion. But also Uganda is still on a medal hunt, still talking about what Uganda's hunt for medals at the Islamic Solidarity Games in Konya continues today. Well, there's also more details on that, how the table is looking like, looking at the basketball men and women for Uganda for the matches scheduled for today. But also inside the New Vision, Kalenjins of Uganda, talking about the Kalenjins, Kenya's athletic cousins that have also been taking on what we do know in Uganda. That is mostly about the guys from Kapchora right there, and the Mount Elgon as well. They have been getting the medals for us. So they give you the relation right there, and of course talking about some of the honoraries that we've got from what they are terming the Kalenjins of Uganda. That is the New Vision Sport for this morning.
Well, also crossing over to the Daily Nation, this is one killing too many. Again, another story you need to look out for. And still more talk concerning decision 2022. Raila rejects the results that were, presented in the tally by the IEBC. And giving you a full story in that, 0.01% of what? A question that is being put by Vice Chair Juliana Cherera. That and many more stories in the Daily Nation today. So look out for it and, be quite confident with the stories. But also something that you need to put into consideration. We're looking at the traffic updates this morning. I want to focus on marking the division areas of Chiwafu, Kansanga, Muyenga, Bukasa, as of course you're headed towards Muyenga, Tankhill. Do not be very, very worried, because the traffic over there seems not to be a problem, and most of the roads at least are smooth, catching it right from Bukasa, Bunga. Actually coming in from Bunga, the traffic over there is not a problem. Most of the roads are dominated by the green lines, which clearly state that there are less traffic hiccups. As you're headed towards Chiwafu has some traffic build-ups here and there, but it shouldn't be quite a big worry. Now, as you're headed towards Muyenga, the traffic starts to build up, but again, this is on some spots of this same road. Again, it shouldn't be a problem whether you're headed there or you're leaving that area. It should be quite a smooth ride for you. Now, all the way to Bukasa. Bukasa is actually also not really heavy with the traffic this morning. However, as you're getting closer to Namuongo, the traffic starts to build up, and on some spots here and there on Namuongo, you will be going through certain traffic hiccups, as also dotted by a few reds here and there. For the most part of it, though, it's again quite a smooth ride. However, the industrial area is quite a different story. We do have traffic on some of these roads. The 6th Street, for example, has some traffic on it. So if this is your usual road, well, you do expect the traffic. Now, coming back and circling to Kawalagala. Kawalagala is also facing some traffic hiccups here and there. So it may make your navigation a little bit hard here and there. However, you have to exercise quite some patience while on this road. Mukwano Road, as you're headed towards the main road, that is of course Kampala Jinja Road, I must say is quite busy this morning. The reds are very dominant on this same road, and headed of course into the main road, which is Kampala Jinja. Well, it is the usual story. Like every single morning, the traffic over there is quite heavy. So as you're headed towards the city center, towards Kampala Road, or deciding to take Yusuf Lule Road to go all the way to Nile Avenue, that should also be quite a very serious problem when it comes to the traffic. So if you're coming in from all these areas, well, I must say that from the city outskirts, it shouldn't be a problem. However, as you're approaching the city center, the traffic becomes heavier by the minute. And again, I just continue to warn you now that we are quite in a rainy season. The roads are a bit slippery, so you need to be very careful while you are operating whatever you're operating on the roads. Any road user, you have to make sure that you use the roads responsibly, because you're not the only one. We do have pedestrians, we do have cyclists. Yes, I think all lives are really important at this juncture. Well, that's it from the traffic updates. But now we get into the sphere of climate and weather. Mollen, yesterday was a cold day, and whatever you told us, let me tell you, it came to pass 100%. The rains were dominant the whole day. I did not really feel any sunshine on my skin, I must tell you. At one point it was cold, another point it was raining, drizzling. Yeah. So yeah, I think a wonderful job is being done.
Yeah, absolutely. Because when we do talk about this era of prediction in weather and climate, I am telling you, we do have the technology to actually see most of these events coming. Yes. And I remember telling people yesterday, if you're still home, go with your umbrella or even carry that warm jacket. I hope they did take my advice, because we are still going to be looking at more of those events as this season of rains actually kicks in. Now we're looking at the early signs of, that is the early onset for the rains that will go up to December. Also, farmers are looking forward to this season at least performing more than the one we had from March to May. So there are a lot of expectations for this rainy season, but I can say we are off to a good start, especially if you are looking forward to these rains. However, not every city dweller is actually okay with the rains because they mess up things in town. That's for sure. Yeah.
Transportation being number one of them. I mean, the rains are really inconveniencing when it comes to transportation. But the ones with the private cars and can afford the fuel prices.
How about us who actually went for buying land? What are we supposed to do with the land when it starts to rain? That is still a big question.
Well, in whatever category you belong to, I only hope that you find a way that works out for you. Well, that's it from the traffic updates this morning. I will now leave you entirely to Mollen to give you quite more coming in from the weather and climate news. Good morning. I am Philomena Mastiko.
Well, I'll take it from there. We are talking about rainy conditions coming through for Uganda, but we also must take into consideration that times have changed. And of course, we have seen so far 4 failed rainy seasons across East Africa. We have hopes for this rainy season, and as we wait for the forecast to come out later this month, we want to see whether there is still hope that we might be looking at more changes, especially when it comes to rainfall performances. But we do know that this has been interrupted by climate variations, and of course the world is still on course to pointing out the best way to avoid the crisis, and of course talking about climate action, of which yesterday President Joe Biden did sign a very, very highly anticipated and the first ever bill in the US that is going to look at climate action. Now, yesterday he did actually come up to sign the biggest step on climate ever, and in his words, in his speech that he gave after this signing, he says this bill is the biggest step forward on climate ever, and it is going to allow us to boldly take additional steps towards meeting all my climate goals. That is President Joe Biden in his speech, that is after signing the historical bill, which contains $369 billion that will be given out for clean energy tax credits and funding for climate and energy programs. Now, this was after a whole year of political wrangling in the US after President Joe Biden actually approved the Inflation Reduction Act. Now, this is the Inflation Reduction Act that is also putting into law or signing into law the most sweeping climate and energy bill ever enacted in the United States. Now, this is very good news looking at the fact that US is among the 2 countries that have been highly polluting the environment. Now, this money is going to include efforts to revamp up manufacturing of solar panels, wind turbines, and of course looking at electric vehicle charging infrastructure, and roughly $60 billion is earmarked for environmental justice initiatives like cleaning up air pollution and installing clean energy projects in the low-income communities. This is what the US is going for, and of course they are going in for 100% renewable energy, looking at that is by 2030 when we actually set out to put all this climate action into play, and of course talking about the Sustainable Development Goals in the 2030 agenda as well. This is very good news, and of course this steps forward the US commitment to climate action, and obviously it is going to be a huge impact, especially as we look for countries going for the COP27, that is the Conference of Parties due to take place this November in Egypt. Now, we are waiting on some of these countries like China that have also been looking into putting into climate action, because China is also one of those countries that are biggest emitters. But as well, we still have to recognize the effort of the US in the climate in this climate fight, because they are looking at least being the lead. And of course we do know that it requires a lot of money, especially if you're talking about moving forward with electric vehicles. Yes, we need it for Uganda, but the amount of money that is needed to actually have most of this infrastructure all over the place is going to be really hard. But the US has done it with the Inflation Reduction Act, and of course the largest climate investment ever. This is a very good step forward, and we did see crowds crowds of at least activists coming up saying we did it, saying that at least the government has listened to most of their voices and they will be going forward, especially with electric vehicles, more of the infrastructure on the road, meaning that also having reduced on the taxes to acquire electric buses. This is a big step forward. And of course, we did see most of the bus manufacturers also coming out to thank the grant that has been given out. The U.S. Department on Transportation said on Tuesday, that was yesterday, saying that they are awarding billions, $1.6 US in grants for cities and states that will be buying 1,800 buses in the shift to cleaner, lower emission travel. And of course, the grants will fund 1,100 zero emission buses, which will be nearly doubling the existing 1,300 zero emission transit buses. This is a very, very good thing that is happening over there, and I know this is what countries will also be looking forward to actually put across when it comes to climate action. Now, there are a lot of hopes for COP27, and I know that this is one to look out for as we look at how to tackle the climate crisis. Now, talking of which, we still have more of those extreme weather events affecting the world, and just news coming in from Nigeria. There has been a lot of rains recently, and of course that has triggered flash flooding across Nigeria and a lot of death being reported. So far, 50 people have been reported dead. That is after many also were displaced after torrential rains caused flooding in northern Nigeria. And that was after the Nigerian Meteorological Agency actually did issue out warnings ahead of these rains, saying that their likelihood of flooding. Now, we do know that most of the people from the areas, they said number, at least 237 homes have been damaged. That is in the area of Balangu, that is northern Nigeria, which has been mostly impacted by these floods. Now, these swept in through Sunday into Monday and Tuesday. Now, what was coming out Tuesday is that rescue operations are still ongoing to look at what could be done over the area, especially with the fact that this has been a continuous rains over the area, interrupting most of the operations going on. Nigeria's Federal Minister of Humanitarian Affairs also did visit the area, ensuring that there is enough relief materials, and of course, as federal ministry also came in to assist in most of this. Now, we're looking at the fact that northern Nigeria, northwestern part especially, has been having rains for this time of the year, but not to having this kind of flooding over the area. Now, they're also recognizing the inconsistency and of course the fact that there has been variations, which also are being linked to most of these climate variations, because the rains that are coming in now are above normal, to add the fact that they are only triggering extreme weather events. And looking at 50 as the number of people right now dead after the floods is just something very sad news coming out of Nigeria, that is the northwestern part. And most of these extreme events actually have been happening, taking a huge number of people. We also have to recall that we just had one event recently across Valley that also took a lot of lives, and we continue to look at more of these extreme weather events that are coming in across the world. We just saw the heat waves, the wildfires, to say that there are a lot of climate extremes, and more than ever we need more action, especially on climate change, to avoid most of these events. And very saddening images also coming through from the northwestern side of Nigeria on what has been in fact impacted. Most of the villages are still underwater, and most of the roads already cut off, at least waiting for most of these waters to drain from the area. Again, a lot of efforts being done by the Nigerian Ministry of Humanitarian Affairs to make sure that people are actually getting relief and also evacuating some of the residents over the area. And we could only hope that these events actually stop, because no one wants to hear death due to weather extremes. Well, away from that, we also want to take a look at the weather situation across the country for right now. That will be tapping in across from the UMITED satellites overlooking Uganda. This morning, we're starting off with quite a cloudy morning across most areas. A little bit of sun coming through from areas of Kampala and the central part of Uganda. Also across the eastern side of Lake Victoria, we're looking at a quite rainy system starting off across western Uganda. That is already bringing us rains across areas of Hoima. That is where we do have the blue to green colors right there on the map, showing most of those rains that are coming through for right now. But it seems like that system is headed westwards, and that will be also going more for the southwestern part of the country. Across Fort Portal, we already have cloudy weather. Looks like we will be having a bit of rains over the area, but those will be just in few quantities, not enough to really disrupt your day, and it looks like that will be moving away in just a few minutes. We also have quite some systems that are starting to develop across southwestern part of Lake Victoria, that is towards areas of Massacre. That is also bringing in a little bit of rains, also in light quantities, not enough to be an issue for your day, and that system is headed more towards southwestern Uganda, that is across Mbarara. You can have those cloudy conditions, also a few rains expected, but those will also be clearing up quite fast. We're looking at more of cloudy weather across the eastern part of the country, that is across Amuria, Soroti, also looking at quite intervals of sunny and cloudy conditions. We could be expecting a few of the rains over there, but at least that will be as we head into the afternoon. I will look at the northeastern side of the country towards Karamoja. There is a bit of that system headed over Karamoja, and that will be bringing us a little bit of light rains, especially towards areas of Portido. It looks like we already have cloudy weather over there, but also that system looks like we'll be bringing in a little bit of rains later as the morning progresses. Across central northern Uganda, where we have Gulu, Padel and Kitgum, we're looking at quite a cloudy morning for you, and we do have some of those rains that are coming through, especially as we look at areas of Nimule, but that is also just dissipating away, meaning that much of the morning might be looking like a little bit of light showers, but mostly with cloudy weather. Away from that, we'll look at the forecast for this morning, and of course that is coming in from Uganda National Meteorological Authority. Also, it looks like we will have again quite a repeat of yesterday in terms of cold weather. We're looking at more of minimum temperatures for this morning being in the lower 20s. Well, we'll start off with the central part of Lake Victoria. That is where we have Mukono, Kampala, Entebbe and Wakiso. We are forecasting isolated showers. That is at 23 degrees centigrade, quite a chilly day for you right there. We look at the central part of northern Uganda, where we have Jumani, Gulu, Kitgum and Padel. We're forecasting light showers. We already have cloudy weather over there that will be coming in as the morning progresses, starting off with quite a pleasant 26 degrees Celsius. The eastern side of central, Ruwero, Woblenzi, Nakaseke, Bururi, we're forecasting isolated showers. Also, those will be scattered over several places, starting off with a cool 24 degrees centigrade, and that system is also likely to cross over into the afternoon. The eastern side of Lake Victoria, however, starting off with quite a mix of clouds and sunshine. That will be throughout the morning, starting off with a cool 25 degrees centigrade, but we do expect mostly sunny intervals to come through even later in the afternoon as we look at the eastern side of Lake Victoria. Now, crossing over onto Mount Elgon Highlands, we're also expecting a little bit of rain to develop, but that will be in light quantities over a few places, starting off with a cool 23 degrees centigrade. That is talking about areas of Mbale and around Mount Elgon. Southwestern Uganda, Mbarara, Ibanda, Bushenyi and Rurizi, we're starting off with a mix of clouds and sunshine. We will be looking at rains later in the afternoon, but for this morning it's starting off quite cold at 23 degrees centigrade. Now the western side of Lake Victoria, that is where we have Massacre, Kalisizo, we have Rakai and Zimbabwe right there, starting off with light rains. We already have clouds over the area, bringing in a little bit of rains. We do expect most of those to cut across for the entire morning across several places, starting off with a chilly 23 degrees across the area. Eastern Uganda, that is where we have Soroti, Katakwi, Amuria and Kumi. We're already seeing some of the clouds that are starting to drop over the area. That will be bringing in more rains later as the morning progresses, a bit cutting off into the afternoon. But this morning is also starting off quite chilly at 25 degrees centigrade. That is across eastern Uganda. Now, most of the rains are expected today, especially across the western stretch and that entire western sector of the country. Also looking at the southern sector, that takes in Lake Victoria Basin, you can't expect to have those rains, and also prepare accordingly. You don't want it raining on you, but we'll be giving you more updates, especially as we look at the upcoming season of late August into September, October, November into December, which is the second major rainy season here in Uganda. Well, that is it for the weather this morning. We do have more coming your way. Good Morning Uganda agenda is in the queue, as well as sports highlights. We also have Good Morning Uganda Extra that will be coming in right after that. My name is Mollen, Kenyena. I want to wish you a very good morning.
Live from UBC Studios in Kampala. This is Good Morning Uganda.
Pick of the day on UBC.
You can only become a leader when there are problems.
Behind the headlines.
So what are we federating?
Whether rats from another country can be, somebody must be there to hold everybody accountable.
Every Wednesday at 10 p.m.
First of all, we as elites of Uganda, we have made Museveni the issue. I can tell Museveni is not the problem of Uganda. The problems of Uganda are much deeper. We can change the next 20 presidents and we'll still be this roundabout.
Was brought to you by
Simply make a small deposit of 99k and pay the balance mpola. You can pay in daily, weekly or even monthly installments while you enjoy your new phone. So what are you doing today? Visit any MTN shop near you and get the MTN cupboard. That's super easy.
Football packages, great entertainment,
Sports, the local content, telenovela, the movies.
There is something for everybody. Go TV, this is where our great stories live.
Get the best entertainment for any budget. With GoTV, you will have great entertainment for as little as 13,000 Ugandan shillings per month. GoTV, great stories, Zidiwano. GoTV Uganda, love it.
I remember the lockdown, when the streets were empty and our lives disrupted, when businesses closed and our livelihoods hung in the balance. Hospitals were full. We lost loved ones, jobs, and hope. Our children couldn't study anymore. We cannot let this happen again. We should not go back. Get fully vaccinated against COVID-19 and join the millions of Ugandans who are already vaccinated.
When you talk about our motherland Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, you cannot fail to smile because of the smile that fills the faces of the citizens. Our nice good weather and nature that sustains us all, that enables us all to continue each in their own way, because we are all different even according to each individual's work. But what joins us to become one person is the sweetness from the flavored drink Hallelujah Jingati drink and Hallelujah Tamarind drink. The flavor that quenches your thirst while at the same time treating and healing your body, because it is 100% natural. Enjoy the drink that has got the tamarind juice in it. Made by Hallelujah Reflexology, Healthy Solutions and Nutritional Research Center Limited. Get yourself a bottle of Hallelujah from all shops around.
A logical, deeper conversation.
How many teachers in Uganda did you consult? But there's a mistake we are making.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good.
Which is good. We went to this school, we ran to Western, we ran to Northern, we ran, then you come.
Isn't that an achievement?
Objective and non-partisan.
Honorable Minister, there were a number of points. I want to start with you.
Straight from the hearts of open-minded men and women.
Money tends to move faster at night
So when people are not counting,
Don't take it for granted.
Candid and authentic.
Because Uganda is not Thailand.
That's not correct, and we should stop that kind of mentality. So what I'm saying
That's
is
a trick question. Don't answer.
I'm not getting into that. I'm not getting into that.
Tell him you speak Luo.
I think that's where we are beginning to have a problem.
I think what is going to kill the parish model are all the misconceptions on how it's supposed to run.
I know that the Prime Minister is listening.
Behind the headlines.
Charles, let us agree. We liberalized the economy. We are several nations put together. Why don't you appreciate that?
What if it fails?
I'm happy
And
to
he's a
answer.
good lawyer because Amin is not in power. The parish development committee is functional. It is there. That there is a parish chief that the beneficiary is doing.
So we look at expenditure. We don't look at revenue. And that is the challenge we are giving them from Minister of Finance.
Your fountain of new knowledge.
The knowledge of Bukedia, how they want to be modernized.
Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
You return money to the treasury, which is meant for the people.
UBC. Inspiring Uganda.
Giver of life, Alpha without Omega.
Uganda, the Pearl of Africa, takes you beyond the guidebooks, the known features, and gives you the insights unmatched. Keep it UBC TV, where we inspire Uganda with authentic beauty and nature of our motherland. Uganda, the Pearl of Africa. Discover the fountain.
This is Good Morning Uganda.
It is a cold morning here in Kampala, most areas surrounding UBC premises, and of course that goes down to the CDB. So in case you're coming to town, well, make sure you have something to keep you warm or carry something. You never know what may happen later. Looking at the crowds, and of course with Mollen, the expert on weather, having spoken, that really gives you proper information on how you should plan your day in case you've not left. And it's in the same spirit that we want to look at environment management, to be more specific, looking at flooding. One person once said that when it rains in Kampala, there's what we call temporary flooding, meaning yes, some parts of the city almost become impassable, but later after some time, then the situation normalizes. Now what happens when we have continuous rains? The forecasters will tell you, or the meteorological department will tell you, that we have our 2 seasons in a year. That is March to May, and of course we have then August to December. And we're in August to December, where they are predicting rainfall above normal, meaning we are most likely to have a lot of rainfall. And what does that mean? It means then floods are more likely to happen. In some areas, we no longer talk about rainfall being a blessing. Once it rains, rainfall is a curse there. You take the size of Waise and all that. But good enough, I have a very interesting guest this morning. A man I've longed for some time to host, and I know indeed Ugandans, you've also been eager to understand, to hear from him. What are they doing as people mandated when it comes to protecting our environment, more so even our wetlands? Like we saw a very interesting story in Mbale, where an entire industrial park was taken by flooding. Now, what does this mean? Was it in a wetland? Well, these and more are what you're going to be discussing. And join me to welcome the Executive Director, that is National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, Dr. Balilenga, that is Akakwasa, to our studios this morning. Doctor, we are eager to hear from you. Good morning.
Thank you very much for hosting me, and a very good morning to our viewers and listeners.
Just to start with, to give more shape to our discussion this morning, let's first properly understand the mandate, the role of NEMA.
Yeah, thank you very much. NEMA is what I would call the environment watchdog in Uganda. It is the principal agency for environment management in Uganda, established by an act of parliament, and responsible for doing 4 things, just 4 key things. One is to coordinate, second is to monitor, the third is to supervise, and the 4th and last one is to regulate all activities of environment in Uganda. Now we perform that role, or NEMA does that role, through working with lead agencies. Lead agencies are ministries, departments, agencies, local governments, in charge of specific segments of environment. So when we come to the wetlands, there is an agency called Wetland Management Department, which is responsible for management of wetlands in Uganda. When we come to forests, we have a National Forestry Authority, which is in charge of managing central forest reserves. We also have a District Forestry Service and community forests, which are supervised by the Department of Forestry Support Department under the Ministry of Water and Environment. We have the lead agency in charge of wildlife, which is Uganda Wildlife Authority. We have the lead agency in charge of water resources management, which is the Directorate of Water Resources Management of the Ministry of Water and Environment, and so many other lead agencies. For example, agriculture, as you know, agricultural rangelands, Ministry of Agriculture manages them, and so NEMA works to ensure that all these lead agencies in charge of respective segments of environment are well coordinated and are effectively working to deliver for environment management in Uganda. So we do that through supervision and oversight and regulation. So I would term ourselves as the head prefect, overseeing the work of prefects, but working together to deliver student service if we take it to that level. So
now, head prefect, let's look at what is the current situation, because this is when we are going to know either the head prefect is in control or is not in control, or is even aware of what is happening on ground, according to your assessment as the body at the epitome of environment management.
I would say it is a game of mixed successes and failures. We have made inroads in some areas, but we need to do more in certain other areas. Forestry, for example, the forestry sector is making some good inroads after a significant decline of Uganda's forest cover. You know, at independence, not independence, in 1900, the forest cover for Uganda was above 50%. Above 50%, you know, but this reduced and went down to 90%. But the cycle has now been reversed. We've now moved from 90% to now actually 13%, having rose from 12.5% in the previous year. So that's a success in my view. The forest cover loss has been halted, and we are now seeing increased forest cover thanks to private sector, thanks to you and me planting trees, thanks to NFA for taking care of the protected forests. But we need to do a lot more. You can imagine from 50%, we are still below 15%. So we need to do more through intensive campaign for tree planting, greening our cities, our roads, our schools, our prison and army and police barracks. We can plant so many trees in those areas, the railway, you know, buffer lines and roads. The other area where I think Uganda has made a lot of progress is wildlife conservation. You are aware our wildlife population almost went into oblivion. For example, we had lost our elephants. Our elephant population had gone to 2,000 elephants only. But this trend has been reversed, and so many other species like gorillas, as you know, we had about 200 mountain gorillas. Now we are talking of the total, if you include the breed population and the Virunga population, we are talking of now 1,000 mountain gorillas, and this is generating a lot of money, as you know. So this is a success story that 1986, when NRM came to power, following, you know, a history of turbulence and conflict, our wildlife species were almost
because some were acting as food, anyway.
Yeah, food, but also lawlessness and also trade, illegal trade of wildlife. So to me, this is a complete success story. The trend has been totally reversed from extinction to increasing the population. Some populations have even gone beyond the population we had at independence, like the population of zebras, the cobs. It has surpassed the population we had at independence.
So that is an achievement.
It's a complete success story. Now, where we could have done better, in my view, is wetland conservation. Wetland conservation. We've lost our wetland cover from 15% to only 8.9% now of intact wetlands. And to me, this is not good at all. It is a worrying situation. We must reverse the declining wetland cover. Air quality, we also need to do more. We still, our air quality is not yet very good. We need to do more. The water quality has some issues. Our water is endangered, so we need to do much more to conserve our water towers, because when you lose the water towers, these are the wetlands, the hills, they are not forested, they are bare. When you drain wetlands, you are actually draining the underground water system, and it is this water system that recharges the underground water, which eventually also beefs up the water in rivers and lakes. So that's an area where we need to do more by protecting water catchment areas and zones, but we also need to do more in control of pollution, because our water bodies are being polluted by discharge of non-treated effluent or wastewater, which is a problem. So we need to address this. So where I think we can do more or better is the management of wetlands, management of hill areas and rangelands, and management of lake shores and river banks, and then enhancing our forest cover restoration.
Doctor, now talking about water, we know water should be a blessing. In Africa, when it rains, we believe so much the Lord is with us, we are blessed. But now water is becoming a problem. Much as you've talked about us messing up with the water table, we need more water, more clean water. This brings us to floods. What would you allude to as the major causes of the floods we are experiencing? A case in point is Zimbabwe. Talk about Bududa. Here in Kampala, we also have areas that are not having that magnitude of floods or loss of lives. But when you go to Waisi, when it rains and you're going to Mukono, even the industrial park itself, Namamve there, come along, Nabisunsa around there, it is disaster. So what are the causes of these floods?
There are various causes of floods in Uganda, depending on where you are. In most of urban areas, the immediate cause of flooding in urban areas like Kampala are mainly two. It is loss of wetland, because it is these wetlands that were holding the water. Now every place has been now paved, so everyone builds and passes over the water. So the water has nowhere to go when it rains, because the water holding sponges, the wetland system, has been decimated. It is shrinking at a very fast rate. And the second one is poor waste management, which has clogged the drainage system. You find the water bottles, you know, these beverage, the pets, what we call pets, beverage bottles, and then plastic, single-use plastic carrier bags. All of these have clogged our channels, and this exacerbates the problem of flooding. Now, in areas, mountain areas like Mbale, Bududa, the cause is a bit different. One, the problem has largely been climate change induced, but of course that is exacerbated also by lack of adequate proper management of environment. This is how it is. Because of climate change, the rate of evaporation or loss of water becomes higher because of global warming. Scientists project that for every change in temperature by 1 degree, there is 70% more increased rate of transpiration or loss of water moisture. So, because the world is more warm now as a result of so many emissions of carbon, methane, and other greenhouse gases as we know them, which cause a blanket within the atmosphere and create more warmth or create more temperatures. These temperatures lead to faster loss of moisture from forest cover, from wetlands, from rivers and lakes. The faster the moisture is created, the more cloud cover is created up, and then erratic rainfall, which is not planned for, which is not budgeted, which is off season. Because there is faster formation of moisture upwards, when this moisture goes up, it creates rainfall which comes erratically. So that explains the flash floods that we see presently in areas like Mbare, which are not projected, which are off-season, or which are erratic really. We've had rainfall all along, but has not been as erratic to cause flash floods that can cause damage to that magnitude. So the main cause is climate change induced. The situation is made worse because the hills or the mountains are bare. Because of prolonged drought that we've had, the green cover on these landscapes is dry. The soil is dry, it does not hold the water. So when the flash floods come, there is no holding vegetation, there is no holding soil, so it runs very fast, comes at a faster speed and causes damage downwards. Two, if we had wetlands well conserved, the wetlands would be the immediate shock absorbers for this water. If we are practicing good agriculture, for example, terracing and afforestation of our hills, this would reduce the flow speed of the water. And so, whereas you may not have changed the erratic floods, you would mitigate the impact it would cause. So, roughly, the floods are caused by climate change induced factors, as well as human factors like poor agricultural methods and mismanagement of our natural resources, and most importantly, settlement of areas that would act as buffers for such problems. People are settling on hilly areas. That makes them more susceptible to these flash floods. Because these areas should be really preserved for environment management, should be forested to try and ameliorate or manage the climate the local climate, so that we do not have extremes of drought and extremes of flooding.
Now, Doctor, having explained those reasons very well to our viewers, the causes, we have hinted on both urban and then the rural setting. I want us to begin with the urban settings here. One of the things that really bothers me is I've seen in Nema, the body that you had, evict people from wetlands.
Yes.
I've seen them evict yam growers, cassava, funny bananas, evict the poor from these wetlands. Some even arrested, sometimes even bullets fired. But then in a short time, we see a factory come up. And when I ask, help us understand, if a person planting yams, bananas and maize was a problem to this wetland, then how is a beverage company, how is a chemical company or fertilizers or what, that even has chemicals they are going to release? I'm told, but an impact assessment report was done by NEMA. And you see, it approved this factory to be here because one, we have adoptive measures, then this. The next, the community is crying. You see the water we used to take, then we go back to factory. Why? What happens? Where is the rationale? Why do you give these impact assessment reports? You know, why in fact later you go to Rubiji, you find a swamp. Someone calls impact assessment report. Later it rains and people are telling you, so help us understand. For I'm speaking on like a layman, you know, help for us we get confused.
Thank you very much for that question. It's not true, first of all, that NEMA only evicts poor people. When we are undertaking enforcement operations, we do not first go to your bank account to confirm that for you are poorer, this one is more rich. No. For us, we look at law breaking or breach of law. If we find you are an encroacher, it doesn't matter you are wealthy quartile. So for us, we enforce the law as it is. If you are in a wetland, we should remove you provided you are there illegally. Now, there may be some developments which are in wetlands legally, like you've said, where, say, a factory or a recreation facility obtained a social impact assessment certificate by NEMA. Those could be there. And realizing that that's not sustainable, effective 1st September 2021, we did suspend any further issuance of environment and social impact assessment certificates and permits for any activity in wetlands. So that is long gone. If mistakes were made in the past, we've reached the point of saying, let's start from where we are now, and we put a stop to this. So we've given the wetlands a new lease of life. No more developments. You won't see any new factory being licensed. You won't see any building again with an impact assessment certificate coming up in a wetland. So if you see a factory now coming up in a wetland, a new factory or a construction building, just know that is an illegal facility, because effective 2nd September 2021, that's last year, we suspended any further issuance so that we can manage the ones which are there now. We effectively regulate them. And the government is also further discussing on what can be done on existing infrastructure like factories, and the government will be coming up with the official position.
Because that's where I find a problem. How do you have an industrial park in a wetland?
Well, yes, part of the industrial parks like Namave, part of it is a wetland, and it is our considered view that the intact wetlands should be protected to actually cushion and buffer the industrial park from flooding, because once you have a wetland left, it actually protects the industrial park itself from flooding. So yes, mistakes could have happened here and there, but government has made a decision to move forward on a right path. No more industrial parks in wetlands, no more factories in wetlands, no more buildings in wetlands. Yeah.
Very interesting, and of course the public is watching when you've given them that guarantee that effective, that is 2nd
September 2021, that's already last year.
No more licensing.
No.
Then we usually have this issue of people claiming to have land titles in wetlands. Person is very clear, this is a wetland, but they have a land title to it. I don't know if you've come across this, but I'm sure you have.
Yes, I do.
So how do they possess these land titles with the head prefect present?
Well, the head prefect is not involved in issuance of titles by law, but there are two categories of titles in wetlands. There are those titles which were issued before wetlands became protected legally, because wetlands became protected legally in 1995 by virtue of the 1995 Constitution. That's when wetlands became first protected. So people who had land titles before the Constitution came into force, these land titles still exist, and they are valid titles. They are not null and void. They are valid because the law cannot work retrospectively. So the titles issued before 1995 are valid, and unless government compensates them, they remain valid. But government has power to regulate use. So we can regulate land use of these titles, but the titles remain valid. Now the titles which were issued after 1995, if you have any title that has a wetland on it, and that title was issued after 1995, that title is due for cancellation. And the cabinet already made a decision that such titles be cancelled, and the ministry responsible for lands is undertaking this process of cancellation of titles in wetlands and forest reserves. The process of cancellation is ongoing.
I can't wait to see meaningful cancellation of these titles in wetlands, because they have become a problem. That many people, and Ugandans, when they hear of trouble coming, they expedite the process of carrying out the mess. A person who was not making use of it now would want to put a structure just in case, to find technicalities of going about the law when it comes to cancellation. But now let's go back. We've talked about the urban center, where you've really rightly explained that yes, there could be mistakes that were done. Now, when you look at areas like Mbale, the floods that we saw recently, where is your role as NEMA in such? Are you only coming for post-mortem? That yes, they did happen, and these are the reasons why they happened. This is what should have been done. Where is your role?
One, our role is to oversee and ensure that the lead agencies are doing their work, but also keeping the citizens aware and informed about what they need to do for better living or for sustainable development of our country. For example, Ergon region, if I may use Ergon region as an example, we've been working closely with the Uganda Wildlife Authority, sensitizing the local people on how to best use the mountain areas, on how not to encroach on the remaining forest cover in Mount Ergon National Park, for example. Sensitizing people on leaving sensitive ecological areas like hilltops, so that they can stay in areas that are safer. You know, government has been undertaking sensitization programs. We've done assessment, ecological assessment of the area. Even now as I speak, our team is on the ground assessing the cracks in Burambuli, so that we advise the people timely to vacate these areas so that they don't lose lives. So we don't only come in after the disaster. For us, we are continuously on the ground, actually, working with lead agencies to sensitize people on best living, to educate people on best agricultural methods, like terracing, for example, and contour farming. If you have contours and terraces on your mountain, it is very unlikely that the floods will be as strong as they were as you saw. but also we do this through regulation. We license development, and the developments in sensitive ecological areas like I told you earlier has now been suspended. So we shall ensure that there are no developments in floodplains, for example, in wetlands and mountain areas, so that we preempt the disasters. So for us, we are actually during and post-disasters. We are continuously on ground.
Well, this brings me to what could be your challenges, because we know I've been covering sometimes most of these areas where I see conflict between NEMA officials, politicians, investors, and big shots in government. Is NEMA 100% independent, that your decision bites and matters? Are there situations which you encounter where the law says something, but of course your mandate is suppressed by these other factors I've just pointed out?
Well, the NEMA is absolutely independent in regulating environment. If you apply as a developer, NEMA undertakes the environment and social impact assessment review to identify impacts of that project independently without influence. We've done this for oil and gas, as you know. This is a highly big influential industry.
Is there any case study that doctor you can boast about, that because of NEMA, this is what we saved the nation in terms of environment degradation?
Oh yes, so many of them. So many of them. And I was giving you oil and gas industry. We've started oil and gas industry regulating the impact and environment and social impacts of oil and gas industry from its inception to date. From exploration phase, we've safely managed the exploration phase without any environmental disaster, and now we are safely midway in the production phase, and we are managing this process perfectly. To me, that's a big success story for NEMA. We are managing in a sound way the environment and social impacts of oil and gas industry. We are now headed for, last week we were in Mayuge and Bugweri conducting public hearings for Makutu rare earth mining project, which is valued at $7.6 billion US. It's a government project. We conduct these assessments independently. The government cannot come and say, well, this is government, issue a certificate. No. Government doesn't do that. As a regulator, we have leverage to assess the impact and say, yes, this development can proceed, this one cannot proceed. So there are so many case stories. The only things that you see have gone wrong are the ones where you make a lot of, you journalists, a lot of noise. The good ones, you don't talk about them. Uganda is developing at a very good rate, as you know. We have industries that are all running. All these are assisted by NEMA. And all projects that you see, roads, lorries,
why would you give you praises when we've had scenarios where people are in quarries? You know, an investor comes, sets up quarries. We hear people can no longer sleep. Their houses are developing cracks. You know, they're developing cracks. Some even animals are losing what they are carrying. And NEMA is looking, sound pollution is part of it. So what do we have? Why would we, when we move around, we are crying because of floods, vehicles in traffic, vehicles can no longer go any further because water, the entire city has flooded. You know, why would we look at the good when there's so much bad?
When you are only focusing on the bad ones, but if you focus on the good ones, you would actually see that they are multiple more than the bad ones. For example, you are talking about floods, but you are not talking about the success stories of development that we have managed, like I told you, oil and gas as an example. This big infrastructure you see around as an example. So it is true there are failures or challenges which are explained also by one, the behavior of ourselves, Ugandans, me and you, not heeding to technical advice. Government tells you don't build on a hill or a hill area. You insist and build there. Water comes and takes you away. Government tells you don't build in a wetland. You go put your house there, water comes and sweeps you away. Those challenges are there as a result of our misbehavior as a society. It is not, because you see, you don't expect NEMA to police every citizen of Uganda where they are to be environmentally compliant. We can at best sensitize and educate, hoping that you and me will pick the message and live a sustainable life. For example, we tell people not to burn waste in open air, but people are still burning waste in open air. This open air waste burning releases fumes in the atmosphere, and it will exacerbate the global warming that we already have, in addition to direct pollution of the air that we breathe. So these and many others explain the few challenges that you see. If we change the behavior as a society and we heed to technical advice and we live the sustainable way, I can tell you that these few challenges will not be there. But I don't want the world to focus on only the few challenges and forget about the positive. There is a lot more.
Actually, among the few challenges, now that I've gotten you on set, is assumption, because I don't have evidence to back this.
Yes.
But assumption or allegations that NOMA is a corrupt agency or authority that favors the rich because they have the money and the poor because they don't have. There is the oppressed. A young investor in any situation, there is the investor. Then you look at people, brick makers, then, you know.
That's not
But
true.
when your stuff comes, simply if you don't have, you're taken. If you have a penny, maybe these developments continue.
That's not true. I can give you an example of even the old NEMA, the NEMA past. You remember Nyakana's house?
Yes.
Being broken by NEMA?
Yes.
Was Nyakana a poor person?
Definitely wasn't.
So that's an example.
Another case, please.
Another case. Just recently, we stopped the developments of Sudiru Paleri at Chituburu for 6 months until he agreed to adjust the designs and comply with the environment. Didn't you read that story? Is he a small person? There are so many others. We don't operate.
When I go to Mutungo Bina, that stretch, I see magnificent buildings, homes of people being constructed.
Yes.
What happens there?
We don't operate through the media. So there are very many things that happen that you may not know. But the point is,
but
our
also
enforcement
there is
operations.
halting, then later. You see, we get confused.
Yes.
NEMA comes in, they halt. Then later, we see the development still happening.
Yes.
That seems as good as nothing.
Not at all. Not at all. You got it wrong. You see, NEMA halts because there is a problem of non-compliance. Now, when the developer complies, do you want NEMA to still continue halting? That will be now an obstacle to development. Ours is to facilitate sustainable development. When you have
what should be your priority? Because there has always been this global challenge, development vis-a-vis environment.
Yes.
And when we try to disguise under safe development, at the end of the day, we're Africans, we're Ugandans, we comply for a certain time, and we don't. So as NEMA, the National Management Authority, what is your priority? Development or environment conservation and
Our
protection?
priority is sustainable development. In fact, our motto is ensuring sustainable development. Now, you cannot, the moment you say this is for environment management, this is for development, that's where you get it wrong from the beginning. Environment and development must be looked at together. It must be one thing. You cannot conserve environment minus development. Neither can you develop minus environment. The two are the same. Are you going to build a dam which is not going to use water? So you cannot say we are going for infrastructure development, so this is a dam. It will not work. You cannot say we are going to build a road which depletes or
through a game park.
It will not work. You've seen the Ruera Road, for example. Because of the nature of the construction, water the other side, water this side, the road is not suspended. The road will be eroded. So government money will be lost. in continuous maintenance of infrastructure. But when you pass it above a wetland like this express highway, you will never see that problem. So the road will be long-lasting and everyone will win. So we cannot talk of environment separately and development separately. That's a misnomer.
So we
It's a
talk about
mistake. Sustainable development. In other words, development that integrates environmental concerns.
I love this, but time is not so much on our side. Well, in just a minute, please let me have your final remarks to Ugandans regarding environment conservation and assurance that you up the game of protecting most of our wetlands.
Guarantee citizens environment management is a responsibility of all of us. Government alone or NEMA alone cannot deliver sustainable development of our economy which integrates environmental concerns. Let us all work together to ensure that everything we do, we think about nature. Because nature will always win if we go against it. We cannot win in nature. There are simple things that we can do to live in harmony with nature. For example, you can plant trees in your farm. You have your farm, or you can use your trees to be the boundary of your land with your neighbor. You can plant a tree in your compound. You can celebrate your birthday by planting a tree, for example, celebrate your marriage anniversary or baptism of your child or marriage by planting a tree. If you can avoid single-use plastic bags, avoid them and use alternative sources of packaging, because the time it takes to destroy this damage in environment, the time nature takes to clean up these plastics is so high that there will be so much damage to the environment. So let's get back to glass bottles, for example. Let's avoid plastic bottles. Let's stop burning waste in an open air. If you are a household, hire a licensed waste management company to transport your waste. If you are up country, use compost pits to manage your waste instead of burning it. If we do those things, small things at individual level, collectively, we shall restore our environment.
Well, I want to thank you so much, Executive Director, that is National Environment Management Authority, NEMA, Dr. Barirenga Akankwasa, for your time this morning. And of course, I want to thank you, our viewers. Thank you for being with us from the hour of 6:30 till now. Ruben is ready to take you through sports updates. See you in Good Morning Uganda Extra. Have a lovely day for now.